I know at least some of you out there have a cluttered workbench like I have. This is a problem, and something I've been wanting to do since we erected this shop a couple of years ago. I'm going to make some new shelves, and I'm going to show you what I learned in all the years of woodworking that I did, and some little simple tips and tricks and how to build the best shelves that will really hold up. Coming up next. Sure, you can go out and buy these metal brackets, but you're here because you want to make something. Forget this junk. If you're new to our channel, welcome. If you're already a channel subscriber, welcome back. Now all we're going to need is some 2x4s, a couple deck screws, and a few tools, and we can turn these into some really awesome shelves that'll hold up really well. The best kept secret to build a strong shelf is creating a little notch just like this, and I'll show you how that works and how to do it. What that does is it locks the angled piece into place and makes the shelf even stronger. These dimensions aren't even all that critical. What is critical is that you make sure that the first piece that you cut, use that as a pattern and make all subsequent pieces traced on that first one. Now you can see I used a Sharpie so you can see the line better for this first one. So that this angle here is less than 90 degrees. So creating that angle that's less than 90 degrees, what happens is when there's more weight pushing down on the shelf, that angled piece will lock itself in there even tighter. So the part that's going to fail are the actual screws that go into the wall. Now let's go ahead and we'll cut this out. Now we have this screwed into place. We'll make a couple more of these and then we'll get them mounted on the wall. Now that we have these braces built, the last thing that we need to do is come up with a vertical line that is perpendicular to the top of your shelf. Now this is critical. So you get a level and you draw in a line that you're going to cut. Once this is mounted on the wall, this will be perfectly level when you're finished. Now having a table saw for this cut would be ideal. I no longer have one. I had a beautiful Delta cabinet saw, but a miter saw or even a handheld saw will work just as fine. This is not that critical. We're not making Victorian furniture here. Let's make these cuts. For those of you wondering, I accidentally cut into a deck screw with this blade a while back and I never got around to replacing it. Deck screws are extremely hard and they will mess up your blade. Now that we have all these cut and they're perfectly vertical or close enough, we only need one more thing, and that's a piece of plywood to go across the top of these. I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch piece of plywood. We'll cut that to the length that we need. We'll get these mounted, get the plywood on, and get our shelf up and running and clean off that workbench. This is the wall we're going to put them on. Now we need to figure out what the length it is that we want and the spacing in which wall studs we're going to hook these to. Now let's assume for one moment that your builder did a good job and these walls are completely vertical. Since you've already made these cuts and used a square to do it, this should be level when we set this on here. We're just going to tack these into place. We don't have to fully screw them in. Let's get the line across and see where we're at. Now, if you didn't notice, I made two pieces with the screws on the left side and two pieces with the screws on the right. That way I can stay in the center and be able to drive all the screws in from about the same spot. I know, I'm brilliant, right?
Wow.
Now we'll check it again. This looks pretty darn good. Now we'll get the other ones lined up, get them installed. Now we'll drive the rest of the screws in, we'll get our piece of plywood, we'll set it in place, tack it in, and we'll be all finished. You want to leave a little bit of clearance on each side. This does not have to be a tight fit. We just don't want stuff falling out the back and down onto the main workbench. And because of the way that we built these shelves, it gives it a lot of strength in terms of holding weight or shock. As you'll see now, we're going to use this chisel. We're going to cut these pieces out using our shelving system. I think that's pretty darn awesome. That fits beautifully. Now we'll take a couple deck screws and we'll keep this from going. And as you notice, unfortunately I didn't have the width that we were going to need for this. We're going to take an additional piece of plywood, rip it down the length, and we'll have our last piece. We'll have a really awesome shelf. Because I'm never going to get a factory edge, we're going to butt this factory edge up against the other one and get a really nice tight fit. Let's get this last piece put in. Now we don't need any major hardware to hold this thing on here. It's just keeping it from moving, but all I got are 2.5-inch deck screws. We're going to use a couple of these things and we'll be good to go. Now that we're all finished, I was able to clean up the workbench a bit, took a lot of that clutter, some trash, was able to put a lot of the stuff up here, clearing my bench space down below. This thing is solid. As you can see, this thing is awesome, and again, it's the design and construction that allows the wood to support itself, not just the screws. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to be showing you my method for sharpening mower blades and why I think it's superior and things to look for. Thanks for joining us in this episode, and we'll see you next time.